Okay, so hello and welcome to our new series, Unexpected Power Healers, where we will be learning from incredible women that have walked their own journeys and can help you in yours. Today, I'm joined by our guest, the ever fabulous stylist, Katie Allen. Katie, I invited you on because one of the topics I see you speak about is the power of style and using style to really take ownership and command of our own energy, which is a super powerful take, not just on the concept of clothing and what we wear, but on creating and maintaining a presence of ourselves. So thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm excited to dive in.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Hooray. So I am just gonna dive right in here. Let's start at the top. Tell me about your business today.
Oh, I love that question. So today I'm a personal stylist coach, and I'm really just helping women reconnect and reclaim pieces of themselves that they've lost along the way. So a lot of my clients are, I think every woman I've served so far is a mother, and she's usually going through some kind of big life transition. So I really hit a wide range of ages. So all of these women are at different phases, but there's something really powerful around the transition piece where we start to see that, okay, like things are shifting. And in order to make this transition, I have to remember who I am again. And
Mm,
it's really interesting to me how a lot of times that really does come back to our clothes, because our clothes really are just an extension of our body. They're an extension of who we are, of our self-expression. And a lot of times we don't know that or realize that until we're forced or maybe have had the opportunity to do some deep work and are served a new opportunity or transition in life. So that's the spot I love to show up in because it's so much more than clothes. And I like to make it easy and fun. Like, I think style should be fun and accessible for everyone because it's a tool.
yeah. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And there's so many transition points like throughout life, even in motherhood. Like just because you become a
Hmm.
mother, like that's not the only transition. I know I'm in a state of transition now because my youngest is going to be starting school, so it's like I officially don't have babies anymore, so like it's
Yeah.
that new season of like, oh wait a minute, it's just
Who
me
am
now,
I?
like this is crazy.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. And I just bring up that point because, well, that's been my journey, my experience as someone who has fully been immersed in fashion from day one, went to college educated, right? Like thousands of dollars into a college educated around fashion history, art history, all of that, gets into corporate and just forgets, has a
Mhm.
kid and forgets again. And then there's so much wrapped up into this. And I also bring up the motherhood's closely related because obviously anytime we talk about our clothes, we can't not talk about our bodies.
Yeah.
And there's so many connections there around all of that. So I just think it's a really beautiful part of that reclaiming of who we are as a mother, like mentally, emotionally, the womanhood versus the motherhood. And then what does that mean for our bodies? And then like how do we reclaim that for our body and all of that? And I just have chills. So I'm just gonna stop talking and let that sink in.
No, that's beautiful. So beautiful because like no one's immune to that. Everyone is going to go through a variation of that for themselves. So, ooh, yes. Yes,
So
I'm with
juicy.
you. So, share the journey of what brought you to today. Like how did you get into this and how did you get here specifically?
Yes. So like I was saying, I went to college for fashion. I loved it. And like when I was 18, I was like, "Ah, I'm gonna take over the whole world. I'm gonna do all the things." And then I just kept getting drilled on like, well, if you don't move to New York, you'll never be successful. And I started to buy into that. So I hopped into marketing and I love marketing, right? It has a special space in my heart. And I do think that that's another tool that can be amazing. So I hopped into marketing right out of college and I did that for, I guess it was 15 years. Right after my son was born, when I was like going through this big like transition in life, I had started with a particular company. So I had worked with that company for 11 years. And towards the end of it, well, the whole time of it, I always came back to fashion. It was home products, right? And I always came back to fashion. And I was always like, the home is the place, how do you want to feel? It's an extension of how you want to feel. How do you want to feel? All of this. And then in the pandemic, I got fired over Zoom, just like this, me and you,
Ooh.
in my closet, 11 years of like, blood, sweat, and tears, all the thing. And that was the opening, right? Like that was the holy crap, who am I? Because now my identity has just been completely stripped away.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's so many elements to it, but it was like, who am I? I was the breadwinner. I was, this woman, this powerful career woman. I was miserable at the same time. So it's not like all these things were just like perfect, but it was just like all who I was as my identity. So that was 2020, late 2020. In 2019, I had started my own podcast. And it was around that. It was around like, I've checked all those boxes. I've hit the numbers that you're supposed to make. I've had the one boy, one girl. I've got married to my college sweetheart. I've bought the house. I've done all things. Like, why am I not happy inside? So I started the podcast, which led to me joining a business mastermind. Well, I should say investing in a business mastermind without a business, just with the podcast, like just with the inkling, but really no real intention to leave my job. Like, I can be completely honest at this point of like, I was just throwing money at my pain. There was no, like, it was very hopeful and it was very optimistic, but I didn't think I'd ever really get there. But I really did love being around these amazing women who were a couple of steps ahead of me and that were amazing entrepreneurs. So then when I lost my job in the middle of the pandemic, I was in this coaching program and the coaching program was about to end. Like, how beautiful is this? And I was just like, so I got fired over Zoom in my closet today and I don't know what to do with my life. So through the podcasting, through this network, through like just really deep spiritual work and like conversations with my husband, like I was just like, look, just give me a couple months to just like figure it out. Like, it's coming. I know it is. I could just feel it. I mean, I was so scared. And I'll never forget, I got fired right before Labor Day weekend and we were at a friend's house and they have a pool. And I was just outside in the morning by myself doing like my own morning thing. Cause this is how I'm surviving, right? Like, I'm super intentional around my spiritual practice. I'm just standing on the edge of their pool. And I was like, oh my God, this is just like how I feel like right now in my whole life. Like, I'm just standing on the edge. And like, if I just jump in this pool, like, it's going to be magical. It's going to be amazing. And like, yeah, I'm scared to get cold and I'm scared, to get my hair wet. Just all those silly things that we tell ourselves. But it was such a metaphor, and that moment just like burned in my brain. And I was so far, quote unquote, like months out from really remembering what I wanted to do. But I just went through this journey and I kept trusting and, just following the steps. And a friend of mine, a mutual friend of ours, was like, hey, can you help this? I have a client. She's getting a website done and she's doing a photo shoot. She needs to wear something. Can you help her? And I remember sitting in the bathtub and just like shooting her ideas. I had no business. I had no process. And it was like shooting her ideas. And then she was like, how much do I owe you? And I was like, you don't. Like, I was in my bathtub and like, this is fine and this is easy. And she's like, people get paid to do that. And I was like, like the heavens parted, like all the things. And I ran to my husband and I was like, oh my God, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. And even he was like, because we met in college. So he was all there for all the fashion school and all that. And he was like, oh my God. He was like, how did both of us get so far lost? He was like, that's one of the reasons I fell in love with you, because you were so just like yourself. And you were so unapologetic about going after this thing that I'd never known anyone that was going to do that. And he was like, and now here you are. So that was kind of long, but that's the story.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. So there's like so many crazy layers and overlaps.
Yes.
The themes that I have been digging into, and I just started sharing about it this week, but I've been really digging into it for like the past couple months, is this feeling of like surrender. Like, what is surrender? And like kind of reframe. Everyone thinks like surrender is like giving up, failure. And I'm like, yeah, but what if it's just like serendipity of you being like, I'm going to figure it out, but it doesn't all have to be at once. Like, just trusting that the next right step is going to happen for you and like appear to you. And that your whole story, I was like, there it is. There's the theme again.
Yes.
And then the other thing is intuition is a big thing that I see, not only in the work that I do, but I imagine is a lot in the work that you do and kind of uncovering and reconnecting. So how did intuition play into this? You talked a little bit about spiritual practice, and I'm like, ooh, where was your intuition guiding you?
Well, from the moment I started my podcast, like I would have to say that was the big point for it. And like, that's kind of what pushed me into that whole journey of spirituality. It's the first thing I'd ever done that felt scary. I've done plenty of scary things, right, in corporate, but for some reason, like doing something for yourself just feels different, scary. And my goal with the podcast was to just share like all of the things I was just doing. So I remember, and like, if we're going to get real woo, I can get real woo, but like, I just remember like is when I launched that podcast and I had recorded like 5 episodes to beginning, and it was to like get it out into the world. And it was very vulnerable. And I just remember like laying in my bed one night and literally like felt like so vulnerable. Felt like I was just like vibrating in my bed, and it was like an energetic like upgrade. I can't explain it.
Yeah.
And there was just something about every time I'd show up on that microphone, feeling like I was just tapping into something else. And then that just translated because that was like audio journaling for me. Like I love writing journaling as well, but it was kind of like this audio journaling for me. So, and I talked about this stuff on my podcast for a long time too. So like I would pull oracle cards or I would do readings with people. I would do all these things and I would just share, and I was just like constantly just like tapping in. But if I even just go back right before the podcast, I guess if I'm really honest, is I was being pressured to leave my job. I mean, I was being pressured to move for my company, the one that I got fired over Zoom in my closet for just a year later. The company was relocating to a different city and they were throwing money at it, which was fine, but I just didn't want to move. And I was standing upstairs and with the real estate agent, and she was just like talking whatever, and I just got this gut feeling, this intuition just like washed over me and was like, don't move. Like, don't move. And I just looked at her and I was like, we're not gonna move. She's like, what? And I was like, yeah, just okay, I'll call you. And like I just like rushed her out the house. I don't even remember what I said to her, but I remember like going down to my husband and being like, let's not move. And he was like, oh, thank God. Like I was like, well, why didn't you tell me? And he's like, I'm just gonna let you do it whatever you want. But that was like my first time of like really, really trusting my intuition. And I was like, oh my God. And I even went to work and everyone, and I was getting so much, when I was telling you I was getting so much pressure. And I do believe that was the beginning of the end for me because they were like, well, how committed are you? Blah, 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 story. I never felt so comfortable and I had no idea what was next. Nothing. I hadn't been introduced to the coaching world. I hadn't been introduced really, like I had a couple podcasts, but I wasn't doing any of the things that I'm doing today. Like I was not even close to being the person that I am today. So if someone just said like, you know, just follow your intuition. But I felt different. Like I just felt different. Then that next version that I would have really hit would have been right. That story is talking about like vibrating after my podcast. So then I just started to learn to kind of trust it.
Yeah.
Because then it just kept coming. It's scary as hell. Like I am not good with not knowing the next step. So like, yes, I was in marketing. I even got my project management certification at some point. So like when I tell you that I'm not comfortable with not knowing, like I love to have a plan. Like the plan can switch, that's fine, but I love to have a plan. But I just knew I had to do it. And it's like, you can't ignore it. I can't explain it. That not feeling.
I understand what you're saying. It's like you have the feeling that it's like it's I don't know if it's necessarily validation because I think that can change with people, but it's like, you know, you're on the path. You don't know where it leads, but you know, you're on the path.
Yes.
And there's such a feeling when you know you're not on it. It's just so draining to not be on it.
Yes. Like that's when you started talking, that's exactly what it was like hard. Like if looking for those houses was so hard and I was just pushing and I was just pushing and I was just pushing. And on some level, I would say pushing got me some things that I wanted, right? Like when I look back at my career, I'm like, yeah, I pushed for this, I pushed for that, I pushed for this. But then it never felt good after I got those things that I wanted. And I was like, okay, what now? What am I pushing for next? So it just feels really different. And yeah, that was it. It was just those 2 times I think where I trusted it. And then I was like, okay, just keep trusting it. And I do see that a lot with women that I'm working with. I'm like, intuitively, they already know how to do the things that they're hiring me to do almost every single time. It's just you want someone who you feel has been educated or trained or certified or has the gift or whatever that is to just kind of support you and like just hold that space for you. Really, I feel most of the time I'm just holding the mirror for them and just saying like, have you ever thought about it like this? Or just trying to help them with some of those questions of like, well, why do you believe that? Why do you believe that? And there's a lot of work to be done just like around women. And like I said, like our bodies and all the things that we tell ourselves.
Wow. Yes. Oh my gosh. It is. And I feel like a lot of those things, we always know the answer. Like intrinsically, we always know the answer. But we don't want to necessarily acknowledge, A, that we might be that powerful to actually know the answers for ourselves. But B, like, especially if it's something we don't want. And we're so used to pushing for whatever that thing is. Like, I'm gonna push for this thing because I want this thing. But like, I kind of know it's not gonna work out. I kind of know that that's not actually what I want this other thing. So wow, yeah, that's confirming then to hear that like you see the same types of patterns in the work that you're doing too with people.
Oh, absolutely. Like when someone has committed to working with me and they've signed the contract and they've paid the invoice, there's an immediate shift before we ever even get on the call. Like the woman that I meet on Zoom versus the woman who's like messaging me saying these things is a completely different woman just from that. And it could be
Yeah.
24 hours. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yes. But I love that because now I know like we're going to co-create something amazing.
Amazing. Yes. Yeah. Because of that vulnerability to like show up and be like, okay, we're going to do this thing.
Mhm.
Ah, yes. So kind of rewinding then, if you could turn back the clock and share sage advice with yourself when you first started this journey, what would that be?
Oh, just trust yourself. Like I feel like I'm going through this like right now. It's like just trust yourself and just remember that you don't get just one shot. Like it's not just like,
Mm,
oh, this one worked. I messed up. Like I just recently messed up a workshop with the passcode. And I was like, oh, that was it. That was it. Like that's it. I never get to do it again.
yeah,
But that was the one thing I would say is like just trust myself that I'm always gonna get another chance to do it better, faster, stronger, funnier, whatever that is for you. That it's not just you don't get this one time and that really everything just is setting you up for that next stone to pop up. If we really are just gonna say like just trust yourself and like jump and it appears or just take the step and the stone pops up, it is just knowing that you don't get one shot to do it. So just do it. Like just do it. Seriously, like Nike fan or not, like just do it.
oh my gosh, the more than one shot, that one really hits. Like you have more than, because that is like such a source of anxiety. Like I messed this one thing up, never again. Like, and then,
Mhm.
or we'll avoid it because it's like we messed that one up. It's soiled. That whole path is closed now. The end. We got to move on. Totally move in a two new direction. But like that's not
Yes.
true at all.
Yes, especially as a small business owner, I mean, that's constant for me, and I can name, like, 3 places where I'm struggling with this, like, that and then it's almost like I block it from myself, like, if I do, like, a live webinar and the first one I had to cancel, and then I was like, "That's it. I could never do it again," and then the second one, the passcode was wrong, and I feel like I know in my heart that I somehow, like, manifested that because I had such a block around
Mm,
you don't deserve to do this again. You had to cancel the first one, blah, 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 blah. People
yeah,
aren't all of that. And then I was like, ah. And then that's when I had that like aha moment, just like so random of like walking into the bathroom. And I was like, oh crap, I don't get just one shot to do this. I get to do this as many freaking times as I want.
that's really powerful. Super powerful. Oh my gosh. So I want to kind of bring it back around to taking action then. So if you were to give listeners any one thing, like either one tidbit or like one action item, go do this thing from today, what would it be?
Well, I'm gonna have to bring it back to style. So I'm gonna
Bring it
say,
back.
go get the your favorite shirt, your favorite dress, your favorite lipstick, your favorite accessory that you have not given yourself permission to wear because you don't have anywhere to go or you're not doing anything special and wear it anyway and tap into the energy that you feel around it and tell us, message us, whatever, and let us know do you or do you not feel more energized? Whether you are just washing the dishes, whether you are just running to Trader Joe's or the pickup line or whatever it is, like don't save your clothes for a special occasion because every day is a special occasion because you get to do it more than once.
Oh my gosh, yes. So now I'm curious, what is your like special thing that like put them on, you're like power?
Lipstick.
Yes. Oh, I should have guessed that one.
Lipstick is definitely like my go-to accessory, but I'm gonna say like clothing items is definitely gonna be a dress. For years, I avoided wearing dresses. My style is really sporty and like casual, but I love a good dress with tennis shoes. And for some reason, I don't know why for years I just would like avoid that, especially if I was going to just the store. It's like I can't just wear a dress. And I don't mean like a fancy one. I just even like this
Yeah.
jersey one I have on today, like you're allowed to wear a dress wherever you want. And it just like energizes me and it makes like running errands not feel like errands. It's kind of like, listening to a song or lighting a candle, like setting the mood for like
Yeah.
doing something that I don't want to do. It's really an extension of my body and I'm feeling it on my skin all day. So the more I tap into that, the more energized I feel. And at the end of the day, aren't we all looking to feel just a touch more energized?
Yes. 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 Ooh, I like that. Like using it to set the mood for what you're gonna go do. Ooh, like
Totally.
yeah, like a song. Like I make playlists for everything. Now I feel like
Yeah.
I need to make capsule wardrobes for everything.
Yes, like don't dress for how you feel when you wake up or the weather, dress for how you want to feel. So like I do that with my clients all the time. It's like I wake up and I'm tired and like it's cloudy outside. I'm like, that's good. That's great. But how do you want to feel today? Like how do you have to show up? How do you desire to show up and dress for that? Because elevate your mood, don't just keep it going. And that works a lot for me. Like we were talking about spiritual practices, I got into cycle syncing a lot too. And that
Ooh,
was something I really, really leaned into, is like dressing for that to make myself feel good so I could transition that and ask myself the real questions around my feelings or my emotions.
yeah, I love that. Cycle syncing is such a huge thing. I'm totally into that too. Makes a huge
Yes.
oh my gosh. And the cycle syncing with style. Genius.
So good. I got that download in a meditation, and I have like a whole 18-page download. I mean, like freebie download for
Yeah,
someone to
yeah, yeah.
download.
Tell us about that because that's the next question
Lots of
asking. Like,
download.
what's next for you? How do we find you? So tell us where we can find all those goodies.
So on the website, katiejuststyled.com, backslash freebie, that is my current thing that I'm sharing with women. It's really amazing. But when I jokingly saying like download, it was kind of like a download for my meditation. Like I just popped up and I was like,
Ooh,
oh my God, I like
oh
this
my
whole
gosh.
thing. And it was just around like our moods during our cycle and like really leaning into the gifts of each phase and like using
Mm,
it to like there's a phase out shopping is more fun and enjoyable. There's a phase when like cleaning out your closet is more fun and more enjoyable. You know, if you do want to experiment, there's a phase for that. And then, you know, I really love the menstrual phase now, which, you know, of course, when I was younger, I was like, oh, but of like tapping into like what's working and not working. And that's kind of where I got that aha moment of like, I don't get to do it. I don't get just this one shot, right? Like I
yeah.
get to evaluate and do it again. So it's actually a really fun download PDF that you can download. And I have matching lipstick for each phase.
Oh my gosh.
I put my favorite matching lipstick colors for each phase and then just kind of shared like what I do and then gave space for people to interpret it to like what feels good for them, because not everyone always feels exactly the same way during each phase of their cycle as well. And I'm going to redo a podcast episode on that soon because I feel like it's time to re-energize that with all the new knowledge that I have. And then we can connect on Insta, Katie Allen Stylist. My stories are my favorite places show up, but we'll get some posts up there soon.
Stores where I hang out too. It's fun,
It's
intimate.
more fun. It's just that much more intimate of like what's going on in my life. I like to keep things like authentic and in real life, because that's where I like to go deep.
Yeah, same, same. Plus, it's like in the moment too. It feels
Yeah,
more real. Yeah.
yeah.
Eh,
It's not some like thought out. It's just like, hey, this is me. This is life. This is what I'm using today to feel great. Maybe it can help you
Totally.
too.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for this. Katie, in case it wasn't obvious before or during the show, you are absolutely a power healer, and the work that you are doing with your clients and in your industry is so incredible. So thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.